The inverse of a one-to-one function is also a one-to-one function. A one-to-one function passes the horizontal line test, which means its inverse will pass the vertical line test. However, for many-to-one functions and many-to-many relations to have an inverse function, by the definition of a function that is, the domain will need to be restricted so the horizontal line test passes. Let's look at an example. Consider the many-to-one function y equals x squared. Here's the parabola, domain or real x, range y greater than or equal to 0. It fails the horizontal line test, which means its inverse will fail the vertical line test. So the inverse of a many-to-one function is a one-to-many relation. So yes, it does have an inverse, well, y equals x squared certainly has an inverse, but it's not a function, it's a relation. What we're interested in is to find an inverse function for y equals x squared. So the question is, what can be done to turn the many-to-one function y equals x squared into a one-to-one function, so when we take its inverse, it's also a one-to-one function? So what we'll need to do is to restrict the domain of y equals x squared to either x greater than or equal to 0 or x less than or equal to 0, or anywhere within that domain. So it could be x greater than or equal to 1 or 2. It doesn't have to be x greater than or equal to 0, as long as it turns into a one-to-one function. So here's an example where I've restricted the domain of y equals x squared to x greater than or equal to 0. And you can see here that y equals x squared now passes the horizontal line test, and it's turned into a one-to-one function. The domain is x greater than or equal to 0, and the range is y is greater than or equal to 0. Let's consider its inverse. Its inverse is still y squared equals x, however, with a restriction. The domain is x greater than or equal to 0, however, the range is y greater than or equal to 0. It is a one-to-one function as well. So the horizontal line test for y equals x squared is the vertical line test for y squared equals x, and you can see that they both pass. So for a many-to-one or a many-to-many relation to have an inverse function, it must be turned into a one-to-one function by restricting the domain.